Today, we set out to answer a question. Can you beat World of Stands Part 1 without a stand? No. Nope. Can't do it. So, bad news. Within the first probably 2 minutes of gameplay, Jonathan has asked me to use a stand arrow. And no matter what I do, I can't not use the stand arrow. That's right. The game developers soft-locked me in the first 3 minutes. Use the stand arrow to manifest your fighting spirit. God damn it. So, it looks like we're using the stand arrow. After using the arrow, I managed to obtain Anubis, which I can't use. Now, seeing as I didn't have a Roka at the time, I didn't think anything of acquiring Anubis, and I decided to continue on with the storyline. After obtaining my stand, I talked to Jonathan again, and he asked me to go free his dog from the furnace. Now, I guess Jonathan doesn't really give that much of a shit about his dog because he can't be bothered to walk out and free the dog himself. Now, trust this random stranger that you just met to free your dog from roasting to death. Yep, makes sense to me. Now, the game wanted me to fight these thugs that were next to the key, but I don't have any time for that. So I ignored them, grabbed the key, freed the dog that isn't actually there, okay, and returned to Jonathan. After speaking to Jonathan... Oh, microtransactions, huh? Well, f you too, game. After speaking to Jonathan, he told me to go talk to Zeppeli to make sure that I can be trusted. So, despite the fact that I just freed his own dog from certain doom, I still can't be trusted. Got it. Talking to Zeppeli, and he wanted me to go get his favorite juice. And with my all-knowing clairvoyance of definitely not having played this game before, I went straight to the correct crate, got the juice, and we're moving on. After I gave Zeppeli his juice, he asked me to go talk to Jonathan again, which I did, and Jonathan congratulated me for my clairvoyance on the previous task and helping out Zeppeli. Then he tasked me with taking out 4 thugs and 1 strong thug. And here's where we start with combat. I went and attacked the first thug and ran into a very large snag. 3.25. Now you might see this number and not think anything of it. 3.25. That sounds like piss poor baby damage. And it is piss poor baby damage. But unfortunately, it's actually not piss poor baby damage enough. See, what I'd learned before I accidentally started the recording late was that when you don't have a stand, your M1s do 2 damage per hit. Which means that by getting the stand, I've increased my melee damage. And I deem that as, well, cheating. And despite the fact that I already failed the challenge within the first 30 seconds of the video, I decided that seeing as I'm a glutton for punishment, the stand had to go. I traveled over to New York, opening a few boxes, eventually managed to complete a daily quest for opening chests, claimed my Roka, and there it goes. No more magic M1 damage increasing sword that's just on my hip doing nothing. Now we're back in the game, baby. 2 damage. Now combat during this run is exceedingly boring because without a stand, you have 1 attack. And that attack is M1s. You don't get a heavy punch to deal with blocks, you don't get any abilities, just M1s that do 2 damage per hit. Because of this, if the AI blocks, I'm effectively just stuck waiting to deal with it, because if I attack into their block, they'll counterattack, and then I get screwed. That means that it's basically blocking wars, where I need to stand in front of the enemy NPC, hold my block, wait for them to attack, and then counterattack myself. Against standard NPCs that don't really have any attacks other than M1's block and maybe a barrage, this is pretty straightforward. But once you start getting into NPCs that have unblockable attacks, now I need to start parrying. Parrying is great because it opens up a window for me to attack the enemy without having to sit there and block, but it's also risky because if I get block broken, I'm eating a bunch of damage. Now, despite all of this knowledge that I had gained within the first few minutes of gameplay, yeah, I'm still dead. Another snag. If I get ganked, it's over. Absolutely over. I am completely screwed. So that means singling out every single enemy, one at a time, and holding block. If I aggro more than one of them, standing and fighting is not an option. I absolutely have to retreat and reset their aggro. I'm jealous of these thugs, by the way. Can we talk about the fact that they get to do double the amount of damage I do for no discernible reason? After flexing on the final strong thug and taking him out, we finished the quest and we're moving forward. I talked to Jonathan again, and he told me that I should really upgrade my abilities in the mastery page. Oh man, he doesn't know, does he? He directed me back to Zeppeli, who directed me to this strange person in an alleyway. That's not shady at all. This strange person introduced themselves as Valentina, someone who was summoned from another world, I suppose? And they told me that I was effectively the chosen one. I can willingly shape my soul into any vessel that I require. I have the unheard of ability to not only use stand arrows to manifest a stand, but use Rokas to reset it and then get another one. On top of the fact that I can use the potential tree. This will let me upgrade my character. I won't be using this. Well, that's what I'd like to say, but once again, we've hit another soft lock. I am unable to progress the game until I increase my base health by 15. God damn it. Anyways, Valentina was kind enough to give me 2 more paperweights that I'm not going to use. I talked to Zeppeli once again, and he directed me towards Speedwagon. Speedwagon's supposed to whip me into shape. After speaking to him, he appears to have lost his hat, and he told me that it was as high as the rooftops. So I went up there, grabbed it, came back down. After giving him his hat back, he tasked me with taking on some of the people in his gang in order to get me into fighting shape. And to say that these guys don't exactly play fair is putting it lightly.
I will massacre you!
Man, talk about excessive force. A gun? Oh, and now a knife. Brilliant. These Speedwagon gang members do not fuck around. But frankly, neither do I. How many people that wield nothing but their fists of fury have you seen that can parry a bullet? I feel like you just surrender right there. If you shoot a gun at somebody and they parry it, you just go home. You're done. Not this guy though, because he killed me anyway. And apparently he wasn't satisfied the first time because then he killed me again. Eventually, after flexing on this Speedwagon gang member, parrying his bullet again, and taking him out, I wrapped up that quest. When I went to go find Zeppeli, who I was tasked with finding again, he wasn't there, and Valentina was instead. She said that she couldn't find Zeppeli and we needed to look for him. So I went and checked the graveyard. Zeppeli's here, and he wants me to take on a giant zombie wielding a sword with the power to shoot rocks out of the ground. With nothing but my fists. Yeah, all right, that seems reasonable. And as it turns out, it actually is perfectly reasonable. It was easier to kill the giant sword-wielding zombie than it was to deal with the guys with guns. Which, now that I'm saying it out loud, actually makes a lot of sense. After taking out Tarkus, I went and chatted with Valentina again. This time, she really wanted to see how the Chosen One fights, and I was gonna put on a show. The other sword-wielding zombie was up there, Bruford, and it was my job to take him out. To be honest, the fight started off pretty well. After my confidence boost from the last boss fight, I really thought I had this one in the bag. And just when I thought that I was starting to get the AI's patterns down, well, yeah, I'm dead. The subsequent attempt went, well, poorly. Third time's the charm though. I managed to take him out, and I got 2 pluck swords. Valentina was very impressed with my, showcasing of skill. Let's go with that. She told me to go after Zeppeli, who was limping towards the Dio's Castle entrance. Why he decided to head towards a place called Dio's Castle after getting injured and looking for someone to take on called Dio Brando, yeah, I couldn't tell ya. I didn't find William Zeppeli outside the castle, but I did find Jonathan, who told me that this castle was what's known as a domain. And generally speaking, when people go in, they don't come out. Very reassuring. It's very obvious he didn't have very much faith in me. I, can't imagine why. But despite that, he decided that he was going to send me to my death anyways, because I guess I'm just not that important. Well, in fairness, I am just some random jackass off the street that goes around punching stuff, so I can't say I blame him. On the domain screen, I had a choice to make. I could be a bitch baby loser and play the domain on normal mode. There, I would have unlimited attempts to complete the dungeon, and I could die an unlimited number of times, on top of the enemies doing less damage and taking more damage. Or I could choose to play the domain on Nightmare mode. 1 life, harder enemies, higher health pools. The choice was clear. The tone for the dungeon was set immediately at the very first enemy that I encountered. My first parry just didn't work, the second hit broke my block, and the third parry once again didn't work. Great. Not only that, but 4 minutes. What's the significance of 4 minutes, you ask? That's how long it took me to chip down the first enemy of the dungeon. 4 minutes. I began the agonizingly slow process of 1v1ing every single enemy in the first room of the dungeon. And after spending longer than anyone has probably ever spent on this floor, well, ever, I managed to defeat the last guy and open up the pathway to the next room. The next section of the dungeon was split into several rooms. 2 of them parkour related and 2 of them combat related. Now, thanks to my knowledge of the game already, I already know that, unfortunately, I have to fight both the rooms full of enemies. So we've got 6 more people to take out. Thankfully, by this point, I can basically completely flex on all of the enemies in here, as all of their attacks are incredibly easy to either block or parry. It still takes upwards of 2 to 3 minutes per enemy, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. Remember those ganks I was talking about earlier, though? I did have a bit of a close call with one of those. Yikes. That's 1 interaction. If you lose 1 interaction to a gank, yeah, not good. Fortunately, the AI leash range is really, really low, so you can just run out of the range and hang out for a bit, and your health will come back. That will be coming into play later. After cleaning up the final area of enemies, I activated the switches in the correct order and created the staircase to head up to the next stage of the dungeon. And I'm greeted with... more bullet sponges. So here we are, back to business. At this point, I'm basically a professional at taking these guys out. It just takes a very, very long time. And when I do actually lose interactions, I get to take solace knowing that the enemy gets to do 7 damage and I still deal 2. After taking out the final enemy, it's up the stairs and through the door. Here we are. Beyond this veil of darkness is the final boss of today's run. Dio Brando. Now, having fought Dio several times before with, well, you know, a stand, I generally understood his moveset, but didn't have a total understanding of how all of his attacks worked, seeing as, well, usually I can just brute force my way through without having to understand all of the attacks. That being said, no matter how much I understand Dio's attacks, he has 675 health. 1 full M1 combo from me deals 10 whole damage. So in other words, I have to attack him over 67 times. 67 interactions. Now, in case you're stupid enough to try to do this yourself, I do have some tips and tricks. Number 1 is that, just like with the other AIs, Dio's leash range is pretty low. So if you just run back through the door that you came through, eventually he'll lose aggro and you can chill to regenerate your health. If you need to win 67 plus interactions, you're probably going to do this a lot, because, spoiler, it's very, very hard to win 67 straight interactions, where if you lose 1 of them, you lose basically half or more of your health. In terms of engaging Dio, generally speaking, you want to hold block and stay at about medium range. This will let you react to pretty much anything he does. Your best case scenario is if he tries to do Space Ripper Stingy Eyes, or if he tries to do this 3-hit dash attack. If he does Space Ripper, you can just go straight up to him and hit him for pretty free damage as long as you block it correctly. If he does the 3-hit dash strike, you need to block the first 2 hits and then parry the final one for, once again, free damage. The worst case scenario is if Dio decides to use his Barrage or this big giant Ice Blast move. The Barrage has no real punish window, so you just need to block, let it run its course, and it just sort of wastes your time. The Ice Blast, on the other hand, you have no way to deal with other than getting the hell out of the way. And sometimes, because of the janky hitboxes, getting the hell out of the way just isn't really an option. Now fortunately, Dio's 2 other moves you can deal with. That's his jump attack and his vaporization freeze ability. Both of these are parryable moves. The problem is, they're also kind of inconsistent. I had several moments while playing where I was directly in the range, and I parried the move, and the game said, no, you didn't parry the move, and I took damage anyway. Like, how is this not a parry? I'm literally in the hitbox, and it didn't do any damage. Regardless of all of my matchup knowledge when it came to Dio, he still kicked my ass. Again, and again, and again. 22 minutes, in case you're curious. 22 fucking minutes of this. Good God. Eventually, I took him out. And the game gave me a C ranking. That's what I'm fucking talking about. And when I claimed my reward, yeah, 6 stand arrows. Of course, what else would it have been? When I returned to Jonathan, he was dumbfounded. And you know what he gave me for all my efforts? A stand storage slot. Oh, stand storage. Oh, perfect. I couldn't ask for anything better. Now it's time to head to New York. And you know what? I don't want to go to New York. If this video performs well, I will go to New York. So, my fate is in your hands. If you want to see this journey continue, like, subscribe, and comment below. With that being said, I'm done here. So have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.